Hello, you've come to join me for more. Let me cover this flash up. So anyway, on my last video, I just kind of went through what I have and rambled, to be honest. Anyway, I've just come from that video. Just got my few little notes from last time. I've got very bad handwriting, so it's another thing that I have. Brilliant. So yeah, I know my eyes looked like they were darting across reading stuff, but I wasn't. That's just I find it's just my eye contact thing. I think I do my best thinking when my eyes are darting around. So anyway, so basically wanted to go into like the living with, from my experience of living with ADHD, autism, and mine's inattentive type ADHD, and autism, depression, although it's not classed as seasonal affective disorder, because I get depression other times of the year, it gets much worse. So I personally class it as like I get depression all the way around the year, on and off, and that I get seasonal affective disorder on top, even though that doesn't classify, because it's for cases where they can't find any other reason for having depression, and it's at that time of year, and so it gets classified that way. If you have depression other times of the year as well, they don't classify it as seasonal affective disorder. I don't necessarily think it makes 100% sense, but that seems to be the logic around it. I don't know if that's official. That's what I was told by a psychiatrist, basically. And, I had no other choice but to change my mind that I don't have it. If that's technically the definition, then no, I don't have it. But anyway, so I get suicidal ideation as well. So it's going to be very bad, as the first half of like autumn, and I've still got winter to get through as well, and yeah, it gets worse as time goes on. So avoidant personality disorder is the other thing that I have, and that plays a huge part of my living with these things. So so where to start with it, I don't know. I hate my life. I do. Right, I do. I hate it. It's crappy. It's a shite. Scheitenberg. So I just feel like I can't really connect with anyone. I can't, because we're talking about me as having like a cocktail with different things. So it's I'm not going to be the classic avoidance personality disorder person, or the classic ADHD person, or the classic like autistic person. It's such a, they come together in a kind of like horrible harmony, for a bit of alliteration there. Whoever appreciates that, I'm sure there's someone. Look how chuffed I am. All right, so that amused me. I'm immature. That is one quality of me. So I'm a scatty thinker. So I can't plan anything that comes to fruition in my life. Like, because I'm inattentive type ADHD as well. So I'm not extroverted. So I'm not the go out there and gonna make things happen somehow. I'm not because some with ADHD could be like that and some won't be, but so I don't. So I'm very restricted from my avoidance personality disorder because of that. I'm always alone. Working with the public is a nightmare. In a lot of the cases, like it's not necessarily like in the sense that I have thrown myself in the deep end and it's like it's one of those things that I've managed to. Like, I've been a hospital porter for one thing, so that was more like one-on-one care a lot of the time, or you'd be paired up with someone else, and it would be that kind of one-on-one rather than groups because I get lost in groups, but I found that I was able to do that, and particularly I guess because like my motivation was to do good for people, so it kind of helped, even though I'd always have that anxiety and but there are instances where working with the public it was doable, but I find like after a certain amount of time, like I just don't have the ability to hold it all together, especially in the autumn winter. So it's kind of like I can't recover because every year I'm always going to be brought back. So for other people, I think that don't have that depression side, I'd say it's probably a bit more hopeful in a sense, which if you've got something that's not going to hold you back and put you in a worse situation every year. But it's crap. It's horrible. Being depressed all the time and having a scatty mind. Like it's just, you already feel self-conscious, and then you make mistakes all the time, and slip of the tongues, and just basically things that are embarrassing in a sense. You're going to get laughed at or criticized, and if you can get the attitude of like not caring so much, and there are times where you can do that, not take yourself too seriously and stuff, but depends. Sometimes you're really drained, your like social battery, or just your battery to give you will for living, like is just depleted, and you don't have those healthy systems in place for your mind. Like it's not easy keeping it all together all the time, especially as a lot of what you're doing is masking things, and that's like a autistic thing, as well as something that people do in general anyway, but it's it's one of those things that you do with autism. I definitely try to make it appear that I've got things more together than I have, and I don't not want to ask for help or anything. So and that's one of the big things that I find personally like frustrating, is that because I don't feel like I have any of these things, maybe partly from the depression and anxiety, but but with ADHD and autism, I don't think that I have them, either of them, to such a degree that it is a disorder in and of itself. But when they're combined together, that's where I feel like, I've and other factors, from my upbringing or whatever, fundamental like installation of my software, to have like that framework of like avoidance personality disorder. It's culminated into something that makes me appear as if I'm fine to other people, and I can sound sensible, I can come across like a complete idiot, I can joke around, but things are in such a degree that people might, they'll think I'm a little bit odd for whichever reason, or they might think I'm a bit eccentric in some way, or or that I'm a bit nerdy, or whatever it is. I don't know what people think, but whatever they think, it'll be a bit like abnormal or normal enough, someone that doesn't live with problems. So anyway, the frustration is that no one, it's like I don't get help for my problems because they don't come across as big problems. In the same way as like avoidance personality disorder doesn't get funding because it's not seen as an important area. It doesn't get attention. Showing my knees. It doesn't get attention. So so that's the frustrating thing, is because it's like I feel like all these years have been wasted, and it's like, why was not something picked up on? Why couldn't I have been helped earlier? Like, my school reports and everything would said about me being shy and like, really quiet and stuff, and surely something would be picked up on, and like something acted out, something done. And it's, life is just what it is. Can't change it. It's just things unfolding as they always were going to unfold. And I just am the creature that I am. I'm just me. And so I do have some perspective on it being like, things are always going to work out this way. Not because I think of it in terms of fate. I just kind of think, you don't have control over changing the past, so it was never going to be different than how it's turned out. So, but but that frustration of just like, I don't get taken seriously in terms of getting help for the way I think, for the way the problems that it causes, because I can tell people like 100% how it is, and it doesn't change anything. There's no help or anything. That like it's always forgotten, like, or underestimated how bad like the symptoms are of these different things. So especially with avoidant personality disorder. And so it's just like it can't be helped. And I'm not the sort of person to like try and get attention either. So it's like there's no way forward for me, because I appear like I'm just someone who gets depressed. Someone who's a bit weird who gets depressed. Not that that's how I would view it in other people. If I was someone else, if I was the second version of me, let's put it that way, because I can't guess what it's like for other people. But if I had a twin and we'd never met before, and I'd met me, how do I think I would feel? I would think, hey, bloody hell, he's a handsome lad. But apart from that, a bit scruffy. But I'd probably have an interesting chat to begin with, and then I'd probably get burnt out. We'd probably both burn each other out. And then have to recharge. I think we'd get on fine in terms of like, I think we'd both want to work on some projects together. We'd both encourage each other to come up with new ideas and systems to do things, and like keep each other motivated. I think that would be something that, so yeah, I wouldn't mind a second version of me necessarily, but because we both understand each other. Yeah, sorry, it's a weird thought. I wasn't intending to go into that. But that's something. Not I don't desire having another me, but it's something that I desire is having someone with the same interests as me, and someone that isn't like judgmental and like critical and stuff. Like, I don't mind criticism. I'm not saying it can't be piercing sometimes, even if it isn't meant that way, because I naturally have a sensitivity there. It's part of my avoidant personality disorder. And that sensitivity can be in other things as well. So, and I think in autism as well. So, and with the ADHD, because of the mistakes that I make because of like low working memory and so little slip ups and stuff. So there's a lot of things that can impact your anxiety levels and like your feelings of self worth and stuff. So, I don't even know where I was going with it. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. I told you I was an idiot. All right. I'm not an idiot, to be fair. I do idiotic things. I'm not clever either. Sometimes, if on a rare occasion, I might do something that's clever. I might say something that's a little bit clever, but probably not that clever. But I'm not. So it's an important distinction, I think, is to not actually class yourself as good or bad in some way. It's kind of like I can do good things, I can do bad things. I don't like to pin things. I think it's just a bit of a self-defense mechanism in a sense, but it's actually a pretty good perception to hold. I feel I think it's a healthy perception to not always keep yourself to the standard of like if I mess upon something that I say I'm good at is my strong point, then you put your self-worth down because now you're like, well, no, I'm not that. But when you like realize that you just have a tendency, you have a trait of doing so much of this, but it doesn't mean that you can't do that. It helps you not to be so self-critical and not so affected by criticism. But yeah, so I'd want to be around people that are not judgmental. Found my train of thought there. You can have a bit of banter with, have a bit of a laugh. Bounce ideas off of each other. See, this is something that I find interesting. So I do interject with some of my like thoughts on things sometimes. That's just part of me, unfortunately or fortunately. It's like I call it like being the second person. There's something about being the second person in a conversation, or someone in a conversation where someone adds something to it. So like in terms of a problem, so someone puts a problem out there, or even just says something that's not a problem. It could be even the solution. They're saying something and there's an error in it, or something that can be improved upon, and someone else comes along and plays the second role, and they are the ones that have their brains freed up to then improve on it or criticize the idea and make it better. And so, but the thing is, the second person could have come to tell the other person the same thing. Could have happened the other way around, and it'd be the second person in the conversation, which and it would be them instead that comes up with the improvement. So I kind of feel like there's something to recognize and can be quite humbling in a sense about the role of like conversations and like coming up with solutions So just because someone like criticizes and comes up with something better, you've got to remember that they're coming from a position that they're playing a role, a different part where their brain is freed up from that construction in their brain. So it's kind of like, I guess maybe this is, I'm kind of thinking as I'm going here, it's where they've built up like a model in their head of this thing, and then they simplify it into words. So like it's converted from this framework into words, a simplified version, and then they have a simplified version to work with rather than this complex like work within the neurons. And now they've got this simplified word version, and they've changed that. That's turned into a model in their head, but it's a simplified version that takes everything in. It's efficient, and then they are freed up to come up with something else. I mean, on the fly, or it could be just that they have all this different experience, different ways of looking at things. But either way, the combination of two people and giving each other feedback and improvement on ideas, is very valuable. I think especially like in the business world, like things like that can be very beneficial. I think it's underutilized, to be honest. But on the other side, that's where I would say also is that if it was me with myself, we'd be burning each other out, because there's a certain point where it's like, okay, we're getting a bit too pedantic now. Let's not be pedantic, because we'll bloody well do it. And that's what going into too many nuances and like details is just like, there's a certain point where it's just like, okay, we've totally gone around on tangents and stuff, not necessarily like we've lost our ability to prioritize, and that's the ADHD thing. One of the things that I like about my ADHD side, I guess, is its ability to I guess that, I mean, this is how I think of it. It's like a random factor. It can add like the random factor to how you think, and just not necessarily through deliberate thinking. Maybe it's certain things are misfired in your subconscious when it's searching for different files. Maybe the person in your brain, like collecting all your files together, the relevant files, is clumsy, and just makes loads of mistakes. Maybe it can't be bothered, just keeps going into the wrong like files and stuff, just pulls out any random thing. But anyway, it can come out with some pretty, like, even if it's random, it can come out with some pretty like good ideas. And so I think it can be like very beneficial in that sense. I think if you want outside of the box thinking, like, I think ADHD is, it has its setbacks for sure, but that's where I draw one of the positives. You can definitely see things in a way that other people wouldn't. So, but there's a mesh with like autism as well in how you think, and so those two things together can be pretty good. However, putting them into the real world, like yourself as a person, like me putting my ideas into the world, is impossible, and that's very frustrating, because I can have very well thought out ideas and things that can be very beneficial to others, and business, or whatever type of like in whichever way, in whichever field of like knowledge, in where something can improve something. It's like, well, my brain probably could do a pretty good job if put to something, but yet I can't do it because I can't go through all the hoops to get to a position like that, especially because of my AvPD, and it keeps me isolated, stops me from making like phone calls and stuff, and or even answering. So it's very difficult, and it's very frustrating to know that you have like good ideas, good solutions, but they don't mean anything because it's just in your head, and you cannot put anything out there. It's very frustrating. It just feels like it's very, very frustrating. People say things like you're intelligent, which I don't agree with. I don't think in the usual way. I'm not a particularly fast thinker. And this is the thing, like with IQ and stuff. Like I don't think it's really. I think it's quite useful, and like it can be measured in different ways. I think there's something that's. I think we all know it's not a perfect metric. It's not perfect. It obviously isn't. But I think that there's some things that are not really quantified very well, and like things that an IQ test wouldn't pick up on. And that's not because I've done one and failed. But sorry. No, fuck's sake. But like with a computer, you've got the motherboard, you've got the like, so you got your processor, your main processor, and then you got your graphics card to process as well. So, but I think so I'm kind of trying to say basically like there's different. A brain can be built up to be good in different ways. And so like obviously like the combination of these being in the perfect way could be like bring out what is like genius level and beyond. But having things good in certain ways like could make you a slower thinker, yet your quality of thinking may be higher. So it could be like a slow graphics card that's it's there for computing certain information, and it does that good job. But we're going to assume it's slow as well, but it can deal with quality, and it can produce better. Like with AI, one AI might be really quick, one might be slower, but one has that better quality framework behind it, and will come up with actual sensible answers rather than nonsensical gibberish. So like I'm just trying to say there's a distinction maybe between like different qualities that a brain can have, and one could be like a really fast thinker, but it may not have that same quality of thinking and problem solving, although it's got more. It can process more to make up for it, and it could be hard to spot the difference between them. Apart from one has the speed behind it, which is going to give it an advantage in the business world and stuff, whereas like a slower thinker will probably come up with more like not so much the everyday solutions, maybe the everyday solutions, but not the fast-paced solutions as such. So for that reason, I don't think like at least a lot of IQ tests are particularly good at measuring your brain in that sense. And I've got another freaking tangent. Bloody hate it. This is me living. This is what it's like for me living with my list of shite. Okay, well that's gone well, isn't it? What is it like for me? Depressing. don't want to live. I don't want to see another day. I want to die all the time. I feel like I can't go. Like, I'm always aware, I'm always conscious about going out, leaving the house. Even seeing people within the house. Like, for me, it's like I would want to wait for everyone to go to bed. When everyone's asleep, that's when I want to use the kitchen. Like, for someone like me, I need my own place. I need my own, like, flat. And it's bloody soul destroying, sharing accommodation. Because you're hungry quite a bit. Just puts you on edge a lot. Not 100% of the time. Sometimes are much worse than others. If I get a really bad spell, it's really, really bad. You know, to the degree that people don't see me for a couple of weeks or something, even though I'm in the same house. You know, that's not easy to do. And like, you know, the anxiety around your phone ringing or something, like you needing to do something social all of a sudden, you know. So it's like it's like having a potential in some way, like knowing that maybe it's just wishful thinking, maybe it's just like fantasy thinking, you know, I can't rule that out. But, you know, and that will be a part of it. You know, I have these fantasies about what I could be doing in life or whatever, and it's like, well, it's wishful thinking. It's my imagination. It's never going to happen. I can't amount to anything. I'm a very curious person. So it's like, you know, there's this drive in me to like always keep learning in some way. You know, I don't have a drive really to follow up with like professional like learning. Well, kind of do, or I have, but it's you know, it's not something that I've got in my life. I don't have any structure. I live with completely no structure to my life. It's crap. It's shite. You know, I've got a book in my head, or no, it's actually like a quadrilogy. Quadrilogy, yeah. And you know, I don't know the ins and outs of it. You know, I've done a lot of world building and stuff, and you know, I know that it's, you know, it's like having the trilogy and then the prequel. I like that. I like how not for the sake of doing it, but if you've got a story that takes that long, you know, it's not just any old story that can do that. But I have a pretty like complex enough story that it has to go through 3 books to tell in a way that would actually be understood, and it makes the most out of different concepts and like twists in how, like, from where you expect it to go, from what you find out. So I'm pretty proud of it, but you know, it's in my head. Like, I've got a few chapters. I've got about 7-8 chapters of the first book, like not the prequel. Like I've done a lot of the story, like drafted up the basic story, but not fleshed it out. So at least I have an understanding and how that fits into the story. Anyway, you don't want to hear about that. So anyway, if you want to know what someone with all this stuff looks like, I guess that's me. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because I've failed again to like really go into anything that even sounds that personal. I think, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I sound like a robot, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I can't do this anymore. Go away, get out of here, go on.